Good morning, guys, ladies, gentlemen, anybody watching this. So, I just want to do a little catch up. So, 2017 Chevy Malibu 1.5 is what we're looking at here. Four cylinder. I posted a video, or maybe it hasn't gone out yet. But anyway, of blow by. What it is you open, you get your car warm, you open up your oil cap, which would be right about this position. It's up on the top of your valve cover. Here's your valve cover, oil cap. Pop that off, and smoke will start pouring out of here. Well, long story short, I knew that the smoke was an issue. We'll start back at the beginning. All right. So the wife drove her Malibu out to Albany, and she did it one day. She said that when she wanted to stop, she drove all the way out there. It's about a 3-hour drive. She got there. She said she feel the car rocking a little bit. It's like, all right, well, I'll take a look at it when you get home. She drove back that night. The next day, she drove back to Albany, and then when she got home the following night, so this is day 2 of a little bit of a rock. No check engine light, nothing abnormal, averaging 30 miles plus per gallon. Nothing had changed out of the ordinary other than it created this little vibration or the little shake. So she got home. I told her to take a look at it. Sure enough, I did. The second night, she brought, we put it in the garage. I popped the hood, checked fluids, made sure the oil was good. It was not even a quarter of a quart low on oil, so it wasn't like it was a huge deal. It wasn't quarts low. The oil's changed regularly all the time on this thing. So we had this shake. I said, all right, the car was still warm. She just got home. A little while before that, we pulled it in. I checked the fluids, whatnot, and then she started the car. As the car was running, I popped the oil cap. Sure enough, I had a bunch of smoke coming out of here. You could kind of see it. It's like, all right, well, knowing from experience, that means the piston ring, or a piston, something along those lines. Here's your piston. That's your cylinder. That's where the piston rides in. Let me see if I can get a good glimpse of this, guys. Here, let me grab a light. All right, so you got your cylinder. Right here at the very lip, it's a carbon buildup ring. Hope you guys see that as good as I can on the camera. But, so we got the piston. The number one, this is a cylinder hone. I'm going to hone out the pistons just a little bit. Due to there being, I don't know if you can see that, but it looks pretty bad right here where the old piston was. There's not a ring there, though. You can run your finger across it. It's more or less just scuffing. But I would like to put a little bit of crosshatch back in the cylinder before I put the new pistons in. So long story short, let's break this down. So we got that, we got the vibration going on. All right, no big deal. We checked that. Sure enough, we had smoke. I ran a cylinder compression test. So what that is you pull your spark plugs out. So you got your cylinder head here. It's on some blocks, guys. I didn't just put it on the concrete. So you got 4 spark plugs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You take a cylinder compression tool, such as this guy here. Bam. So you got your gauge. This one's got 3 different sizes. This one here, it's upside down. This way I know that this is for this car. So what you do is you match up your spark plug, the thread to the thread on here. There we go. So the thread on there. Take this little bugger, put it down in there. It screws in. You screw it in finger tight to where it stops. The little rubber seal on the bottom actually stops it. You can kind of tell that it's all the way in there because the hose itself just kind of bends. Simple enough. You hook this, quick connect fitting. You just pull down on it. There's a couple little balls in there. They open. It locks on to the top of this. All right. So anyway, run a compression test. Cylinder 1 was down about 90 psi. That was the first one I did. I thought it was a little odd. Sure enough, I was like, all right. So pulled 2, 3, 4 spark plugs. Ran a cylinder compression test on 2, 3, 4. We had 150 psi on these 3, 90 on this one. So right off the bat, it's like, all right, there's an issue with cylinder 1. Well, when we first got this car, I did a bunch of research on it. And I might make a video. Guys, let me know in the comments if you want me to, in my opinion, of the things that are common on this car. I made a video, about the third brake light. I've got that posted. The nuts literally just fall off from the third brake light. That's an issue. Well, in this case, the motor seemed like it was running fine, but she knew the car. She drives it every day. She knows what it is. And this car, like I said, very well taken care of. Everything is always changed before it's supposed to be. Spark plugs regularly. Oil changed really regularly. Always use the GM filter. For this one, it's going to be the PF40 or PF64. And like I said, guys, I literally use the GM filter. We've used that since the day we bought the car. Or, first oil change on the car. We bought the car, used 40,000 miles. And like I said, everything's always been changed. 30,000 miles, the transmission fluid gets drained and refilled. The oil gets changed regularly. We've had to put the new battery in it. This is a 2017 model, so the battery was done last year, so it's about 4 years old. It was kind of acted up weird. It didn't start one time. I was like, all right, charge the battery up. Didn't have an issue. All of a sudden, for some reason, one day I went to go into it or get into it to start it. Sure enough, click, 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 click. All right, the battery's dead. Put new battery in it. Didn't have an issue. So back to the situation at hand here, guys. I've got to do pistons in the motor. I'm doing all four. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I've read is from 16 into the early 17, they had one set of pistons, that they created. And this is the issue with it, guys. Look at that. Like I said, this motor has been well cut up on, and it's broke a piston. When I went to take it apart, the piston rings were literally seized inside of here. I didn't pry hard, nothing like that. Nice and easy. I took the rings off. This is a connecting rod bearing. Doesn't look bad there. It's pretty dark on the backside. Same with the other one that's inside. So those go inside of here, which go around your crankshaft. You got your bolts that actually mount it up on. So here are the piston rings. Like I said, this is what I use, guys. I use a really small screwdriver, just enough to get in, to get under the lips that were seized, to be able to get half of it off, and then I spun it off. I've rebuilt motors before, so it's nothing new. It's nothing. I do want to say though, if you guys are not very, very mechanically inclined, I would suggest having somebody or a shop do it. I personally don't care for shops because of the way that they are, but it is how it is. That's a piece of the piston. Here's another good old gouge out of it. The piston retaining lock. I took this off because I was going to mess with it, but then I decided just to order all new pistons. It should come with the connecting rods. And then you got the rest of your oil seal for your rings and whatnot right here. So you got those. So anyway, in order to do this job, you have to pull off. We'll start at the top. So me personally, I pulled the battery. From the battery, I went from there to the airbox, pulled all the airbox off, and then I started unhooking the tubes. The one tube I took all the way out. This long black one, it's an intercooler tube. It was full of oil and gunk. I don't know if you guys see that, but it was pretty nasty. So I pulled that off because I'm going to clean that before it goes back on, so I'm not sucking all the nastiness up. I posted a video about the airbox. So on your airbox, you have a little box. So you got the big one that comes over. It goes down into your turbocharger. It comes in this side here. Right here. It goes onto the big tube. So there, I kept finding oil, stuff that looked like a really nasty baby food look. It's like, all right, guys, that's not regular. I went through, I replaced all the PCV valves and the tubing, because if you do the valves, it's a non-replaceable part. You have to literally do the whole thing. So, after that, I got the battery, got that, started pulling the, the components off. I pulled the spark plugs out because that's just how I roll. You know, I got the turbo unhooked. I did the oil pan. You know, there's a bunch of stuff throughout the whole entire process, guys. It makes it a real pain. You have to pull the motor mount, the airbox, the motor mount. You have to pull the big splash shield under the car off. You got your timing chains. This one's for the smaller ones for the oil pump. The bigger one's for the actual camshaft. You got two different guides. You got this one here. Let's see if I can get better views on this, guys. I mean, it doesn't, you know, it's not broke. It's not cracked up. It does have some, you know, little scuffs on it. But over time, it's got just over 120,000 miles on it. You know, so it's not a brand new car. It is used. We do live in New York, so there is rust. It's been sitting for a little bit, waiting on parts, that sort of thing. When you go to do this, you have to support the motor. I have the alternator resting back here. The wire is not super tight. You know, nothing's being pulled. That sort of thing. If it was pulling on it, I would just unhook the wire. I'd pull the alternator all the way out, but I feel like that's not necessary. The oil pan came off. You have to pull the oil pump off. Let me see. We'll give you guys a little peek down here. You know, there's the other timing chain guide. One of them's got one bolt in it, because this is where the tensioner goes on to. And then the other one just is in place there. But, so if you look down here, that's this right here, right above the light there. That is the oil pump tensioner. I got the oil pump itself down there. I have a block of wood holding the engine up. You have to drain your antifreeze, so make sure you have buckets for that. I've got one drain pan over there that the oil pan's sitting in. Then, you know, it's high enough I was able to put a 5-gallon bucket under it. I cut most of it in that one. You know, some in the other one. You got to drain the oil. I know a lot of this, guys, for people that have done it and do this, it's nothing abnormal. But there is a ton of bolts. The splash shields, I ended up pulling off both of them from each side. They go along the frame rail. So you got those two. The battery. The heat shield that goes in front of the catalytic converter and the turbocharger. The battery box I had to pull out because I dropped a socket under it, so I figured I'd leave it out. I'm gonna grab a shop vac and I'm gonna suck out all this little bit of crud. I'm gonna clean that up before I put it back together. So that takes care of that part. And the one gasket, guys, is actually, it's part of the cover. So this is a gasket and it's a heat shield in the same aspect that goes in front of the turbo. The turbocharger, I took the oxygen sensor out, is held on by 4 nuts. There's studs in the head that actually this slides right on. You know, you've got 3 different ports, 1, 2, 3, coolant. I believe they're coolant. I think one of them might be oil. I could be very wrong. But I want to clean that up the best I can, you know, within reason. So we got those heat shields. We have another line that came off. This is an antifreeze cooler line. This goes onto the top of the turbo, runs down, and then plugs into the intake. And the block, I do believe, it's part of this cooling. So you got your big cooling system here, or your cooling hoses, top radiator hose. This goes down. Your water pump's located right here. So that runs from there down and around to your water pump. So the hose that I just showed you on the floor, here's one of the hookups. The other one goes right here. And then you got an electrical connector. I unhooked that just to be able to move the harness farther out of the way. Some of these bolts, guys, I'm not even going to bullshit you. Sorry for the language. But they are not very friendly as far as getting out. They didn't give enough room in order to actually pull it. So we got that side of the parts. We got this. I pulled off the flex pipe, which is the exhaust that goes from the bottom of the catalytic converter, or the turbo downpipe, however you want to look at it, to the front of the muffler. I pulled the inner wheel well out of this side here to gain more access to be able to see the crankshaft. Let's see, what else we got out here? So as far as, all right, so back to the exhaust real quick. You'll have 2 nuts on this side. And then you've got this bracket here, which crosses from one side of the car to the other. It bolts on. And then you got the exhaust hangers there and there. And then you follow the pipe up, and then there's 2 more nuts up top of there. All right, so then you've got your valve cover. You know, you'd have your PCV valve right here. There's one there. You got your fresh air. You got the other PCV valve here. I just unbolted them because I just replaced those and the tubing. It was easy enough just to unbolt these, pull them out of the way. That way they didn't get broke. I did clean up the inside of it. It is getting new seals everywhere. So this is a camshaft seal. You know, I cleaned it up pretty decent. It used to be, you know, pretty nasty. You can see some of the residue still left in there. It was pretty thick, guys. So yeah, I did that. And then you got your lower oil pan. So there's 2 oil pans too. This is the upper. They consider it the upper oil pan because it goes to the block. And then there's a little one that covers here. That one's metal. This one's aluminum. You got your oil level sensor inside there. You know, once again, I cleaned it up the best I could. And then we also have the timing cover. Once again, there's another seal there. I mean, you can still see it was pretty rough. I'll go through, I'll Scotch Brite all that surface, all this surface. Anywhere there's a gasket, it'll get Scotch Brited. I'll Scotch Brite it just to clean it up. Sorry, this is a super long video, guys, but there's a lot to this. If you were to try to do anything similar to this. My suggestion, obviously, if you ever have to tear it apart, put all new gaskets in. For this one, it's RTV for the timing cover, the oil pans. Here's the other oil pan. Like I said, it's pretty small. I just kind of put a bunch of the nuts and bolts in it so I knew where they went. I'll clean this all off because this is all old RTV. The harmonic balancer came off like crap. Yeah, it ended up, so it broke once it hit the floor, which was pretty crappy because I fought to get it off. I ended up using a slide hammer. I put slide hammer in here. I have one little bit that kind of goes in. It's like a hook. I did that, and then I kept moving it around, tap, tap, tap. Finally, it came off. And as it came off, when it released, like I said, it went hard and it hit the floor. So it's getting a new harmonic balancer. I suggest always replace the bolt. I believe this one is one of the torque yield bolts or the one-time use bolts. Depending on if you're used to Ford or GM. It both means the same thing. It means replace it once you break it free. Alright, so we got that, and that's what this big bolt here is. This is the bolt that goes through here. And that's what holds it on. So bam. Like I said, that bolt to me is garbage. These bolts up here too, I also read on GM's website they were a one-time use bolt, so I bought 3 new of those. So bam, bam, bam. The parts are supposed to be in today. That's why I figured, you know, I got a little bit of time. I might as well make a video. Like I said, once again, I'm sorry it's super long. I'm not the most, how can you say, organized when it comes to this. This is what I do. I know what I'm doing. I can tear it apart. I remember how it goes back together. I can put it back together. Then you've got your intake manifold, which is this right here. Your throttle body sits right there. This here bolts up to the back side of the head. So back to here, that's where the turbocharger goes, guys. Those 4 nuts that I was telling you about. And then this bolts right here. So boom, that's how that would go. And like I said, the throttle body sits on top. My recommendation, guys, when you have it apart, take your time and clean. The more cleaning you do, the better off you're going to be at the end of the day because everything's going to go together good. Back to that note, there are a few things to take in note. It takes more than just the everyday, you know, the sockets, the ratchets, stuff like that. The fuel injectors. So we have the injector, or the rail. The injectors sit, bam, 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 and bam. They don't come out. You're supposed to have a special tool from what I've read that gets down in there. You know, it comes up into here. There's a couple little arms and this and that. But it was easy enough for me just to kind of move them just enough out of the way to get the valve cover off. So take that in consideration. If you're going to do it, either A, have, you know, the stuff already ready before you even touch it, or have the time planned out to where you can order your parts and, you know, any tools you need. You'll need a fuel line on their disconnect tool. There's a ton of the little plastic clips. Let me show you one. Like this one here. This kind of just pulls out to release off from the valve that goes in there. Then, you know, pretty much each one of the wiring harness has either a red or a gray clip. You got to slide it out and then push it on the tab, which actually, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it lifts that little arm inside next to that green thing up. The green thing is the seal, but it lifts it up so you can unplug it. There's a ton of those, and half of them are hard to get to. They are too. They are complete bare. You know, and then this goes over to lock that fuel line that I said you needed a disconnect tool for. Let's see, what else can I put in here real quick? Whenever you're doing it, guys, if you have any slack in your timing chain, replace all your components. Don't just do the chain because you think it's just a chain. There's an oil. Let's see if I can get down on into here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but right here, I'm in the way of the light. But right there's an oil nozzle. And then you got your tensioner for your timing chain right here. And then, like I said, you have the tensioner for the oil pump drive chain down there. Now, when you do it, I personally use Scotch Brite, or, you know, something similar to it, maybe the knockoff, but it doesn't really leave, you know, it leaves a nice, smooth, finished surface. And you want that because you want all your new gaskets to seal. As you see, I've started this. This side here is clean. You know, and then you get over here. I did this, but then you look here. All right, I haven't gotten there. Haven't touched any of this. Haven't touched that. Haven't touched. Oh, okay. Back to where I was. There was red all over on all these. Up into here. Same with this here. Like it was nice and thick. It's just the old gasket. It's the material that's left behind when you pull the head. You know, same with the RTV. The RTV will stay there until you clean it up. So back to everything, guys. Just a quick recap. If you have a car, you know it well, and you feel it rocking, once it's warm, pop your oil cap off. Just make sure you don't have any blow-by. If you do, you know, I've read that it gets so severe that it starts a check engine light. It causes all sorts of issues. We were lucky. We got to it soon enough. Yeah, it looks pretty bad, but it's not actually grooved. I can rub my fingernail across it, and it doesn't stop my nail. I can barely feel it. But just because it is there, and I want the best, you know, the best result when I'm done, that's why I'm going to take a cylinder hone, and I'm not going to hone it much, guys. Just a little something to knock that down, you know. And also, I'm going to use the hone. You can kind of see it. There's a black ring. You see the top of the piston? Well, this builds up with a ton of soot. It's almost hard enough. You can almost chip it off with your fingers. Yeah. See, it's hard, guys. It's carbon buildup. I'm going to get that all cleaned out. So the piston, when I go to put the new rings in, it's not going to catch on that. I'm not going to break a piston ring, because then you're going to be pretty upset with yourself because that happened. Now, going into that, there's a lot more to it. You need a piston ring compressor, which I've got mine around here somewhere. Anyway, I've got one of the round piston ring compressors. It takes an Allen wrench. You know, more than likely you'll need a torque angle gauge. You know, this was cheap. I bought it, but it does work. Piston ring pliers. Like I said, I have the spring compressor. It's somewhere in my jumbled mess. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little recap. If you guys want more information about this, you know, just leave a comment. If anything, I'll see if I can't put my email address in the comments down below. You can message me. It's a process. It really is. I got on All Data just to replace them. They're calling about almost 17 to 20 hours, something like that. I can't remember exactly. But I know by the time I'm done, I'm going to have a lot more than that, because I'm going to take my sweet ass time and I'm going to do everything to where I know when I get in it and I push that little button, she's going to fire up and be ready to go. You know, you'll need antifreeze, oil, new oil filter, and then I recommend changing the oil, you know, not too long afterwards. I'm not going to say to push the full oil change, but 1,000, 2,000 miles, something like that's what I usually do. You know, You got this stuff here. It's assembly lube. I'll put that on the crankshaft bearings. You know, it hasn't been used in a while. It's dirty. But either way, it's a garage, guys. It's not the cleanest, but when I put it together, I'll make sure everything's clean before it goes on. New head gasket, new valve cover gaskets, new intake gasket. I'm putting new spark plugs in it again. You know, and Scotch-Brite, what I mean by that, like, this is just cheap stuff that I picked up at Walmart. Scotch-Brite, you know, it's green. It's got kind of like a little grit to it. I do the head and the block, I'll do by hand. And if there's anywhere that gets really super thick, you know, you could use an angle grinder. You know, I picked up a bag of a bunch of different ones. There's supposed to be fine, coarse, and medium in there. Yeah, guys. So, like I said, I'm sorry I rambled on for almost a half hour, but if you watched the video, I appreciate it. And like I said, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. You know, I'll try to make a few videos if I have a hard time, you know, with the timing, getting the timing all in, anything like that. And then if you're going to reuse your old chain and stuff, it's not a bad idea to mark, you know, to put a couple little marks. This is ink marker. You know, I did that just for the simple fact that I wasn't sure if I was going to reuse them. But, you know, you got your two cams, and then you got your crank. Then you got your crank and your oil pump. So, yeah. A lot of paper towels, guys. Degreaser is going to be a best friend. While you're in here, if you've got higher miles, I'd, you know, suggest replacing the belt. I've had the new belt for quite a while, just in case I needed it. The old one's not really that bad, but with the mileage on it, and I don't like to mess around. I'd like to just replace it the first time around. I'm just going to put the new belt on. The tensioner, I don't know. I might look into getting one just because I've got it apart, and this one's got a little bit of bearing noise. You know, it's not like a bad wobble, but I don't know if you guys can hear that, but to all the people that can do this stuff one-handed, I give you props. But yeah, it's got a little bit of a bearing hum if you were to actually like get it spinning. But yeah, so anyway, I appreciate you watching, and I hope you guys don't go through the same thing we are. But if it does, if you do, wish you the best of luck, and have a great day.